The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Looks like we still have some folks kind of filtering in here, so thanks for joining me today. My name's Scott Ellis, and I'm Product Marketing Manager here for Onset. And today we're going to take a look at one of our brand new loggers that just came out the beginning of the year. It's called the UX120 4-channel Analog Logger. So before we go through the agenda here, just a couple things that will be happening with this webinar. I'm going to talk for about a half an hour or so about the features of the product. I will be taking questions, so please feel free to enter those in, and I'll try to answer those as I go along, or I have some time at the end. This is also being recorded. So this will be available afterwards. We'll provide the link in an email follow-up. And as I see, looks like we got most of the folks here. What I'd like to do actually is start this off with a quick poll, just to get an idea of what your primary data logging application is. So if you don't mind, I'm going to throw this up here on the screen real quick. And we'll hit launch. And if you could just take a moment to go through and check what your applications are. I've got a feeling this is going to be mainly energy monitoring. This is what the product's typically used for. But we do have some folks who do use them in other climates and put them in their own weatherproof enclosures and all that sort of good stuff here. So, and looks like we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. It looks like we get the majority of you. Let me see if I can post this. So it looks like the majority of the folks are doing energy monitoring. Let me share it. So as you can see here, we have energy monitoring, some indoor environmental, and it looks like we get some new folks here as well. So that's fantastic. So we'll do one more poll here in just a moment or so, but let me go over the agenda. Let's see. There we go. So just give you a brief introduction about who Onset is, and then introduce the UX120-006M 4-channel data logger. Then we'd like to go through the key features here, looking at the LCD sensor compatibility, some of the improved accuracy that we've done to the product, more memory, start and stop options, logging modes, visual alarms, mounting options, and talk a little bit about the switch 2.5 voltage output. And then just touch on the whole broad scope of the UX product line itself. And again, we'll save some time at the end for questions, but again, please feel free to type those in as we go here. So just who is Onset? Who are we? We're the leader in portable data loggers. We were founded in 1981. We have roughly 120 employees here. Where here is, we're located in Bourne, Massachusetts, which is on Cape Cod. This is our only facility. Everything is designed and manufactured here. So half of the building is dedicated to manufacturing, and the other half is dedicated to sales and marketing and engineering. And we sold over 2 million HOBO data loggers. And I'm just going to throw up one more poll here, if you don't mind, and just what is the primary type of data loggers that you use? And if you could take a minute, we have the standalone loggers that are USB based, web enabled, wireless, or none, and you're new to data logging. This particular webinar is going to focus on the USB, which this is the product. It's USB based, so standalone and battery operated. And it looks like that is the majority of our folks, although, again, we've got a bunch of newbies here. So looks like we've got just about everybody in, so let me close this down and share the results here. So that's good. That's what the webinar is going to be focused on, is the USB product line called our UX series, and then specifically this new product here. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing. All right. So let's introduce the new logger itself. This is the latest product in our next generation of USB product line. It's compatible with our HOBO Pro and Lite software, which is also compatible with on the Windows and the Macintosh platforms. The current version that's available is version 3.6.1. All of the upgrades are free. You can download those right from our website. So, and actually 3.6.1 just hit our website today. So definitely do an upgrade if you can. This product, it has a wide variety of applications and uses, including HVAC performance, where you're looking at some of the fans and compressors and boilers, looking at rooftop units where you may need to monitor 4 different things, such as the supply air, mixed air, outside air temperatures, and then along with current draw off of a motor. And then just doing some investigation work, so trying to find where the hidden energy waste is. So looking at air compressor control, if you're not taking advantage of free cooling, or looking at electric machinery that's been left on when it's not required. This is really a nice product. It's very versatile in terms of the different types of sensors that you can connect to it. So let's take a look at some of the key features here, and we'll dive into more details. As you can see, there's a lot more features from our previous product, which was the U12 product line. The first thing, obviously, is the price. It's $139. It's compatible with a wide range of sensors, which I'll touch on all those. The LCD is going to give you real-time feedback, so it's really nice. So when you're setting up the product out in the field, you don't need to be connected to a laptop to kind of see what's going on and make sure you have it all connected correctly. 16-bit accuracy and resolution, definitely touch on what that means and how that affects the accuracy of your existing sensors. This logger has 44 times more memory than the existing U12 product line. We've added flexible start, stop, and restart options with the product. There's multiple logging modes, which we'll spend a bunch of time on the ins and outs of those. This is powered by two AAA batteries. Typically, you're going to get a 1-year battery life when you're logging on all 4 channels with 1 minute. You do have the ability actually to power this by a USB adapter as well. And then finally, user upgradable firmware, which is available to do through HOBO. So occasionally we're able to push out new features, and so rather than having to, say, return your logger for an upgrade, you're able to do that right through the HOBO platform and upgrade your firmware. So taking kind of a quick high-level tour of the product itself, I'll start on the left here. We have a couple push buttons on the top. The left one is for the start and stop button and the icons. You can see that you'll get all your current readings here. If you happen to set an alarm indication, there's an icon that'll show you if something's out of range. The indicator here will show how much memory has been used and if you have a feature turned on called Wrap When Full. Across the bottom are where your sensors are going to be plugged into. There's 4 inputs across the bottom. Each one of these quadrants here is labeled with a channel number, so you can associate that to each channel. There's rare earth magnets that are on the back of this, as well as mounting tabs on the side. It makes it a little easier to secure your logger when it's out in the field. There's a battery door on the back. There's a USB port right on the side. And then the right push button allows you to see alarms, clear alarms, and look at some of the statistics, which we'll go into those in more detail. Looking at the LCD, I know it looks a little busy, but this is basically everything that it can do. The key things on here is that, again, it's going to kind of show you what's going on channel by channel. It'll show you that the logger is actually logging. One of the nice things here is when you plug in a sensor that, let's say, it's a sensor that Onset doesn't carry, you're able to set your own scaling, and you can go from engineering units, say, as 4 to 20 milliamps, and you can scale that to pressure, let's say, and so you're able to type in PSI here, and that's done through the HOBOware interface. And then as you start to scroll through some of the statistics and alarms, the screens will change, so I'll show you how that works as well. So the LCD itself, it refreshes every 15 seconds despite what your logging interval is. The LCD can be turned off. I know that is a concern. Sometimes people feel as though Big Brother is watching, so we've got a mode in there called Stealth Mode, and it'll turn off the LCD initially, but then you can push either of the two push buttons at the top of the logger, and that will activate the LCD for about 10 minutes. So that usually gives you enough time to set up the logger, confirm that it's logging, and then you can walk away and the LCD will go back to sleep. Actually, before I dive into the sensors here, I'm just going to take you over to HOBOware. If you're not familiar with the HOBOware software, this is kind of it. I've modified a couple things here, but what we're going to do is take a look and go up to Device and down to what we call the Start menu. And just to touch on some of that scaling here, as you can see, you can come through and choose from the list of standard sort of sensors that we carry and support, but in the case of where you may have your own sensor, you'll come down and let's say it has a 4 to 20 milliamp output. You're then able to come over to scaling, and what you're going to do is create a scale. So you have 4 to 20, and then let's say you have 0 to 100. Change this to PSI and pressure. Now once you've saved this and we hit done, what you're going to see is that now updates the units to PSI, and you can also put in a label here as well. So it's very easy to kind of go in and modify things so you can see what's happening on the LCD in real time. So to kind of take a look at the sensor compatibility, it's the same sensors that we've always had for the U12 product line. I'm kind of throwing some part numbers out here, so I apologize for the folks who might not be familiar with us. You can focus on this middle measurement channel here. They all plug directly into the UX120 itself, and our more popular sensors that go with this product line is typically our temperature probes, which are available in a multitude of different lengths, so 1, 6, 20, and 50 feet, and a couple different types of stainless steel tips on there. And then our AC current transducers, which the A through E basically refers to 20 amps through 600 amps. So, those are some of our more popular sensors that just directly plug right into the logger. Some of the other products that we offer that sometimes require an additional power source and an additional adapter cable. are these measurements here, and this is where you would either select from the drop-down menu to set the appropriate scaling, or that scaling can be done through the scaling feature in there. So this just gives you a good idea of how flexible the product is. And again, if you have your own sensor, something that's not up here that gives a DC voltage output or a 4 to 20 milliamp output, we're typically able to connect to that. One of the biggest improvements, and I apologize for everything that's on the screen here, so I'm just going to pull up a couple points here for you, is going from the U12 12-bit accuracy to the 16-bit accuracy of the UX120. Really what we've been able to do is improve the accuracy of your existing sensors. So if you've been using any of our temperature probes right now, you'll see you go from a 0.25 C down to 0.15 C accuracy. And then one of our other more popular sensors are the AC current transducers, which basically you're going from 4.5% down to plus or minus 2.1%. For some folks that may have sensors that give low millivolt outputs, the improved 16-bit resolution will now allow you to begin to monitor some of that and actually get some definition down in the low range there. So we're still working on some sensors here to qualify some new sensors and see how that works in terms of resolution. But as you can see, the accuracy and resolution has been a big step change above what we've had in the past. Just a question here on cable length. We have one of our users here who's familiar with the U30 product line, which is one of our web-based products, and asking if there's a limit to the cable length for any of these sensors. And for the most part, I'd say yes. You know, typically you're looking at the cable length itself. So in terms of the temperature sensors, you'd want to pick something that's appropriate, 1, 6, 20, or 50 feet. If you need to go longer, you can get extension cables from you know, a product like from Radio Shack. But the thing is if you run these too far, you want to make sure that it's twisted shielded cable, so you're not picking up any additional noise. So I'd like to take a look at the memory here, and what is kind of 1.9 million measurements and 44 times, what does all that mean in real life? So taking a look at the older U12 product, when you have all 4 channels activated and you're taking a reading every minute, the logger only has the ability to run for 7.5 days. Now on the flip side, that may be not long enough, so on the older product, on the old U12, some folks would say, okay, well I'm going to allocate all the memory to just one channel, and I'm still going to log in a minute, and it's going to last 30 days. So this is where the big improvement comes in on the 1.9 million measurements. Oops. Where with the UX120, and we have all 4 channels activated, and we're logging at a 1-minute logging rate and a logging mode, what we call normal logging mode, which is where the logger wakes up every minute, goes back to sleep, takes a reading, and then goes back to sleep. But in this case, on all 4 channels, we go from 7.5 days to now 358 days. Now, if we take this one step further, and again, all 4 channels and a 1-minute logging interval, and then we do something what we call statistics logging, where I'll dive into this in a little more detail, but basically it can take the minimum, maximum, average, and standard deviation reading over your logging interval. So even with all that happening, the logger still has the ability to run for 71 days. So as you can see, there's quite. This is the advantage of the additional memory here and what it's going to kind of get you. One question came up on the measurements. Do we have a sensor for humidity for this product? We actually don't. The sensors that we have right now have been a combined sort of temperature and humidity, and they don't connect to this particular interface. I know in the past we have recommended the Vaisala temperature and humidity probes, and basically it's a combination sensor, but it has two analog outputs, one for temperature and one for relative humidity. So that's something you can actually talk to our sales staff about, and they can point you in the right direction there. One of the other features here is that we've expanded upon our start, stop, and restart options. Basically, you can start the logger immediately at a next logging interval with a push-button start or on a specific date and time. Where this changes from the older logger is you can now set stop options. So you can have it stop when the memory fills up. We brought back a feature which is called wrap when full, so basically the logger never stops, and once it uses up that 1.9 million measurements, it's going to start overwriting the oldest data. You can also have it stop on a push-button stop, and then also on a date and time. Now, when you have push-button stop enabled, you also have the ability to restart the logger. And sorry, that's just my reminder to flip over to HOBOware and show you what's going on. I see we have a ton of questions pouring in, so please have them keep coming in. I'm going to touch on some of these as we go down the road here. So in terms of setting up your starting here, again, you can have it start right now at the next minute logging interval on a date and time where this can be pushed out to 3 months for a delayed start, and then in this case, you would start it with the push button. You have your different modes here: stop logging, and then basically this never stops. You can have it stop on a push button where you'll see then this becomes activated, and this is for your restart. One of the questions regarding this: is there any limitations in terms of how many times you can start and stop? No, there's not. So if you have a bunch of projects that are set up, where you're gonna record for 5 minutes, you've got to stop the logger, you've got to change something out, and then you've got to start again. You can just keep doing that over and over. You can also set this to stop at a particular over a time frame or on a particular date and time. For some reason that's grayed out. And then this is where you can turn off the LCD that I talked about before. There was one question on the LCD in terms of what sort of temperature it can handle. For the most part, it's like any other LCD where, when it gets below freezing, it's going to start to act a little sluggish. I know as I walked out here on lovely Cape Cod this morning to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, the LCD actually worked perfectly fine. But you could tell when it went to change readings every 15 seconds, it was a little slower than normal. It wasn't as snappy. In terms of the upper end, if it gets too hot, I believe it's rated to about 125 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll notice that it may black out. Now, once it comes back into range, that actually does recover and it does fix itself. So, and that holds true with when you warm it back up from freezing as well. So the different logging modes, the new logging modes, and I know we have a bunch of questions in here, and hopefully I'm going to be able to touch on all of these. So we've got 3 different modes. We have what we call the normal mode, which is what most U12 and older H8 users are used to, where your logger, you set a logging rate, let's say it's every minute, it wakes up, it takes a picture of what it's recording, it goes back to sleep, and then wakes up at the next minute. With the statistics logging, you're now able to do min, max, average, and standard deviation over the regular logging interval by actually setting a faster sampling rate. And I'll show you how that works. And there's actually you don't really penalize yourself in terms of memory usage. And then we have another feature here called burst logging, where you're able to set both a slow and a fast logging rate, and then based upon a defined threshold, that's where it'll trigger going in and out of the slow and fast logging modes. Excuse me, sorry. So let's take a look at statistics. So looking to be able to record these 4 different parameters here. You don't have to choose all 4. You can actually choose just 1 or 2 of them or whatever. Within HOBOware, and I'll show you where this is, but you're able to select your regular logging interval. So let's say we're logging every minute, and then over here, as you can see, you can then select a faster sampling rate. So what this does is it makes your memory usage more efficient, and so the logger's not actually restoring every second. What it does is, here's an example. So let's say I'm doing a 30-minute logging rate, and I'm doing 1-minute statistics, let's say averaging. So the logger starts, it takes its first measurement, and then what it does is it takes a reading every minute. It's going to look for one of those statistics over that time. So let's say it averages all those minute readings over that 30 minutes, and then at the next 30-minute logging interval, it's going to log that average reading, and it throws out all the 1-minute recordings and then starts over again. And let me just show you what this, where you set this up in HOBOware. And again, we're kind of back in our start screen here, and clicking on the logging mode, and I come down to statistics, and this is where, so I've got it set up for a 1-minute interval. We can select the max. As you can see, as you select another channel here, and this is essentially what you're doing, it's another logged channel, so you are eating into your memory a little bit here. But if you were to have all four statistics channels going, you could then, again, run for about 71 days, and then you can change your sampling rate. So let's say we want to do it every 5 seconds. And so what that does, again, is it wakes up, it takes a whole bunch of 5-second readings. It's going to give you all of these 4 statistics, and then from there, it gets rid of those 5-second readings and starts over again. So we'll just set that up here. All right. And keep the questions coming in. It looks like we got a lot of great ones in here. Actually, sorry. Let me show you what so when you actually do an output of something, for example, so here's what your data is going to look like, and please excuse the mess down here. It's just trying to gather a lot of information at once, but really the key to this is looking in our table here. So as you can see, this logger was taking a reading a logging interval every minute. I was doing 1 second. Oops. We're doing 1 second sampling here, and then what I got out of this is I had what we call our normal channel, and then it would take the max reading, it would take the minimum reading, and it would take the average reading. So over that minute, at exactly 10:22, it saw a snapshot of 11 amps. But over that time frame, it did see a high of 12, a low of 0.0049, and basically the average is 6.6. So what that kind of tells me there is that for most of that minute, this particular motor was running for only 50% of the time, as opposed to when we look at the next minute here, you're able to say, okay, for that entire minute, this motor was pretty much running full on the whole time. And then as we come to this particular minute, as you can see, our snapshot is basically down to nothing, where we had the max up at 12 amps, and again, the min was down to nothing. But here we are with the average being 6.2 amps. So again, what that tells me is that basically this motor started, at 10:22:30 and ran through 10:24:30. So it kind of gives you a better idea, a more exact time of when your motors are running. Now, to be fair, this is a constant load. So where this information becomes a little more valuable is when you're dealing with variable frequency drives and areas where the amperage may be changing, or for example, even temperature. You may be seeing some dramatic swings, and that's where averaging or min or max and standard deviation can be extremely useful. To give you an idea of what it looks like on the product itself, when you have the statistics enabled, what you're looking at here is what would be just a regular snapshot every 15 seconds. With a right button push, you'll then see what your max readings are down here. You also get, with another right button push, you then get your minimum. Another right button push, you get your average, and another right button push, you get your standard deviation, and then finally one last button push then brings you back to the main screen. So it's going to give you some sort of real-time information that you can see what's going on out there as well. That calculation of the statistics is only over your last logging interval. So in terms of doing any sort of historical, looking at seeing what the max, min, or average is over your deployment, at that point you'd need to download the information and bring that into HOBOware. So I'm just going to take a quick look here and see if there are any questions here on the statistics, and I think I touched on most of those. Yeah, there's one question, actually a really great point. I've been focusing here on pretty fast sampling rates. You're going to find that if you're logging every 15 minutes, even with, let's say, all the statistics channels, this product has the ability to run for a super long time and actually probably outdo its battery life. So, typically you're going to get about a year battery life on this, probably a little longer from what I've been seeing, but if we were to say, we come down to a 15-minute logging rate, it calculates your if it was to use the memory, it doesn't take the battery life into account. But then if you're able to use all the statistics channels here, something that makes sense here, it doesn't really matter, we'll hit that. And then, it says about 2.9 years. Now, technically the logger can run for that long, given the amount of memory that's on there, but you're limited by the battery. So all of these, I shouldn't say all, the UX product line, specifically the UX90, UX100, and the UX120s, you can plug it into USB power, and whether that's off your computer or whether that's off a, like an iPhone charger going into a wall, you can then power the loggers and use the battery as a backup. So, keep that in the back of your head there, that may be an option if you're doing a super long deployment. I also had somebody point out that the battery level on this particular product is currently at 58%, and I'll be honest with you, this is one of my test units that I've been using out of our engineering builds, and it's my job here to beat the loggers up before they hit the market. So I probably do not have the most freshest batteries, so as you've seen by some of my demos here, I'm logging as fast as possible and basically beating this logger up the best that I can. So that's where you'll see the poor battery life. But again, you're going to get about a year's battery life if you're logging on all 4 channels at a 1-minute logging interval. So I'd like to take a look at our other logging mode called burst logging. And basically you set what's more or less kind of a heartbeat or a slower logging mode, and then you set a threshold where you can then go into a faster logging mode. So in this example, I have it set so that it'll log every 12 hours unless you go above 75 degrees, and then it's going to log every 5 seconds until it goes below 75 degrees. And that's kind of a snapshot of the setup screen in HOBOware. And what I'm going to do is actually show you an experiment that I ran here. This was based upon, now this same feature is also in our UX100 product line, and in this particular case I was using a thermocouple logger, looking at the furnace runtime of my gas furnace. We purchased a house recently, fairly old, and have questions about how good the furnace is. So I hooked up the logger and basically set it so anytime it goes above 140 degrees, it would go from a 4-hour logging rate down to a 1-minute logging rate. And let me just zoom into some of the data that I have over here that makes it a little easier to see. So this year, we come over here, and as you can see, we're coming through November. It was fairly mild around here, and we also had a wood stove, so kind of offset some of the heating costs there. But basically, at this point, it's just waking up and taking a reading every 4 hours until it hit this threshold here, where it'll give you the date and time of when that new interval begins. And then what it does is it drops into a 1-minute logging mode here. And so basically it'll cruise right along at 1 minute until it comes back down. And then, for example, so that shut off at 9:25 a.m. and then it took another heartbeat at around 1:30, and then the heat kicked back on around 3 in the afternoon. So that's a good example of kind of how to maximize your memory with this feature. So, if realistically I was trying to catch this with one of our older products, I'd have to set this at a 1-minute logging rate. And when you zoom back out, you see all this data from May to November. That would have been a bunch of 1-minute data, and it just would have really chewed through all my memory. So, being able to set these 2 logging modes is kind of nice. We've had some other applications where, again, they're kind of where folks are looking at hot water on demand used in residential homes, and this is another great way to kind of go in, and you don't really need to be logging at 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 1 minute all day long if you don't need to be. So that's where you kind of set that threshold. of an upper or lower limit, and basically get you the data that you need. So another feature that we've added onto this is something called visual alarms, where you can set an upper and a lower range for one or all 4 channels. It's displayed on the LCD with a right button push. The alarms can be cleared a number of different ways, whether that's by a push button, whether the sensor goes back within range, or by downloading the logger to HOBOware. The alarms are highlighted in the software. There's a shaded area, and also HOBOware shows the largest outside of range, whether that's min or max, on the display and in HOBOware. And the way that the alarms are tripped, they're tied directly to the refresh rate of the LCD. So the alarms are looking every 15 seconds, again, despite what your logging interval is. And this is basically a fixed rate. It's not user selectable. So to give you an idea of what the data looks like here, we're logging every minute. The alarms were being checked every 15 seconds, and the high value alarm was 75 degrees. So at 12:03:45, an out of range reading was logged right here. At 12:07:45, that alarm condition was cleared, at which point it gives you the largest outside of range value that it saw over that particular time frame, which in this case was 4 minutes. So that makes it a little useful, so you don't have to kind of sift through your data there to see what the highest or what the most out of range reading actually was. You can do some other things with that too, where if you wanted to export, for example, just the alarm tripped and the alarm cleared, technically you could figure out what your runtime was as well. So, you know, doing a few calculations over in Excel, it's another way to get some runtime logging. One of the things that if you've seen the products with the new design, what we've done is we've really improved upon the older design. That you know, it was a good little product, but let's be real, it was kind of hard to deploy sometimes. If you had to put it onto a wall or something like that, you didn't have a good way to put it on there. So what we have is we have 4 rare earth magnets that are on the back of the product. They're pressure fit into the product, into the case itself. So unlike some other competitors out there who glue theirs in and sometimes the glue lets go, I have yet to rip one of these out, and you know, they've been in all of the UX products now for the past 2 years or so. There's 2 tabs on either side. The product does ship with Velcro ties, but you can also use zip ties to connect this to something. We do ship it with the 3M command strips. Basically, it's that cool tape that allows you to put it onto a painted wall or something like that. It's not gonna damage the wall. And then the size of the product here. I kind of, and sorry for the poor photography here with the iPhone, but I want to give you an example of what we have. The U12 on the right and the UX120 on the left. So, you know, it's a little bit of a thicker product. It's probably twice as thick, and then it's laid out a little differently. But as you can see, you know, the product's mainly all display, so you can kind of see what's going on there. All right, this is a feature here that's been in our older products. I wanted to touch on it. Not a lot of folks use this, but when you're using the 0 to 2.5 volt input cable called cable 2.5 stereo, it comes with 3 wires. There's a red and a white and a black. Basically, that red wire will shoot out a quick 2.5 voltage for about 5 milliseconds before the channel fires up. This is if you wanted to power an external circuit to then wake up a different sensor. As I said, not a lot of folks use it, but for those who do use it, at least, and I'll tell you right now, I'm in a little over my head. This made complete sense to my technical support guys and ladies. So, you know, this is available in the manual, but this is basically the way that the logger will wake up and excite that particular channel and then go back to sleep. So if you do have any questions on this, I do recommend reaching out to our technical support folks. But just wanted to make you aware, it's a little different than what the U12 did. So this puppy's just jammed with features. You know, I just wanted to kind of do a quick recap on everything here. So with the LCD and all the different sensor compatibility, the better accuracy, the 44 times more memory, all the start and stop options. The logging modes, I'll be honest with you, I think this is really the product that the statistics were really made for. We've had a number of feature requests over the years, and a lot of that would relate to this particular type of product. So I'm hopeful that you're gonna find these useful. And then, you know, we have the visual alarms and you know, the different mounting options, and then again that switch 2.5 volt output. Before I wrap things up here, and I see that we've got a bunch of questions, and I'm cutting it close here. So what I want to do is just give you a quick overview of what the UX product line now looks like. Over the past 2 years, we've been upgrading all of our original U-Series products. And so now what you see is the UX100s, which basically do temperature and humidity. And there is a single channel thermocouple input logger. We have our UX90 runtime series, which gets into on and offs, so light and motor. And then we have a combined light and occupancy logger, and then a state logger that also does pulses. And then we have our 3 products here in the UX120 series, where we have the new 4-channel analog. There was a 4-channel thermocouple logger that we released over the summer, and then actually the first UX product that kind of started all this way back in, I want to say 2011, was our 4-channel pulse logger. And obviously you'll see that that does not have a display on it, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to update that. So, but that kind of gives you a good idea of where the product line is going. I know that there's and yeah, here's the questions here. You know, there are a couple more U12s out there that haven't been revised, and that's something that we will be looking at here. So let me dive into your questions here. There are a lot, so bear with me a second. I'm just going to go back up to the top here. Thank you for everybody who picked up on my spelling mistakes. I will do better next time. In terms of communicating to this product, there's a couple different here. Basically, the way that the USB products work is that you set them up through your computer. That's done directly through a USB cable. And then you take them out, you deploy them, you leave them for a particular amount of time, and then you can plug them back into the computer and then offload them that way. If you're working in a lab environment, you can certainly keep the logger connected to the computer, but we don't have a way to stream data real time. So you'd still have to periodically kind of go in and download to do the analysis. But then again, you do have the display there to kind of see what's going on in real time. So to touch on some of the products here, is there a sensor that you would use this logger to do on-off and runtime? And I kind of pointed out the burst mode that would allow you to do to do runtime, but depending upon what your applications are and what different types of loggers you have, again, you can use the analog logger in a burst mode to kind of get set that threshold and get an on-off time frame that way, or you can use one of our true on-off loggers where this wakes up every second. It's always looking to see if a state has changed. Let's say a motor's turned on, it logs the date and time, and then it keeps looking every second, and it doesn't record those little seconds until a state change has happened again. So that's an alternative to get on-off data there. And sorry, there's a ton of questions here. Thank you very much for sending in all these questions. Can the data be harvested without interrupting the logging? Yeah, it's a feature that we call offload while logging, and I actually turn this logger off. So when you go to read out your logger here, sorry, let me just launch this guy real quick here. But basically, you can go in and while your logger's recording, I'm just going to start this. It sends the information out. Let's pretend I've been logging for a while, and we come in and we hit readout, and it's going to give you an option here to don't stop or stop your logger. So if you hit don't stop, your logger's going to continue recording. So technically it'll keep going until you stop it, or if your memory fills up, or in the case if you use wrap when full, it may never stop. So but yeah, this will allow you to offload the latest data, which in this case is 1 data point. But the logger is still continuing to log, and the way to check that is one on the LCD, which you guys can't see. The other way that you can see is coming up into the status menu, and you can see that the logger is launched and running. So you're able to do an offload while the logger is still running. Sorry here, I'm just trying to go through all of these. Is there a low battery alarm indication and logging? There's a couple things that we do within HOBOware and on the LCD itself. The LCD does have a battery icon indicator, and it has 4 different thresholds there. Also, when you plug the logger into HOBOware to offload it, the software does recognize if you have a low battery voltage, and it's going to prompt you to say, hey, in this particular case, I'm at 58%. But for example, if I was down at 5 or 10% and I'm trying to offload this logger, it's going to go, hey, you know what? You need to change the batteries. And if I ignore that warning and then I try to go to launch the logger again, it's going to flash the same warning there. So there's a couple things that we do to try to protect folks from deploying the logger with bad batteries. Let's see here. Good question. If the battery dies while the logger's logging, do you lose the data? You don't lose the data. So it's gonna record, and this is true of all of our loggers. The memory that we use, if it loses its power, basically it's going to store all the data up until the point of when the logger stopped. At which point you can then plug the logger in. It is USB powered. So you can offload your data that way, or put in fresh batteries, and you'll be able to see everything there. Another good question on the LCD. If we're dealing with extremes in the low temperatures and the high temperatures, if the screen goes blank, is the logger dead? No, it's not. The actual electronics of this unit can go from -4 to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. That's basically the operational temperature range of alkaline batteries. So the logger can definitely handle that entire range. The logging side of it is still chugging right along in the background, even if the display has gotten sluggish or if it's gone black. So rest assured that's still kind of doing its thing in the background there. Okay. Communication-wise, I see that we've got a couple things here in terms of communicating to the product. Again, it's just USB, so it can't be hooked up to the internet or Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. We do have other products that will do that. I recommend taking a look at our U30 product line. That does have the ability to get the data out to the internet over Wi-Fi, cellular, or Ethernet. So definitely check that out online. Actually, before I wrap things up here, I just want to throw up this. Still looking through some of these questions. There's a lot of good stuff here, so I appreciate it. The software is not included. The software is a one-time charge of $99. And that includes the USB cable. It's going to operate all of the products that we have here, and again, we do free upgrades. So, and that's done over the website there. All right, so I think I got everything. There's a few couple technical ones that I'm not going to touch on because I'm not completely sure. So I want to get together with my sales team and potentially the tech support folks just to kind of touch on some of those. What I wanted to do is put up some of the information here on our YouTube site. This is where most of these training demos and that sort of stuff end up. I also recommend that you check out our white paper section here. We've been putting up a lot of guides that are not just created by us, but also by you folks in the industry. And there's a lot of good tips on not only how to deploy loggers, but then how to make sense of some of your data. You know, let's say I'm recording amperage data and I need to calculate that to kilowatt hours. How do I get that done? So, you know, a lot of these guides are really informative. So I definitely recommend you check those out there. Oops. In terms of me, if you have any questions, that's my contact information there. Our technical support team, we're on the East Coast. They're here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. You can also get us at all these email addresses and phone numbers. And then if you have any questions, I saw some things come in about KW sensors and humidity. What I'm going to have our product application specialist folks reach out to you and give you a buzz or shoot you an email, and they can dive into more details. But you can also get them at 800-564-4377. So again, this presentation will be available. We will email a link in the follow-up. So there is a survey here, so please tell me what you thought. How can I do things better? And if I left anything out. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. You know, if you have any questions, please let me know, and we can go from there. Thanks again, folks. Have a great day.